I'm J.G. Michael, and this is Parallax Views. Do you want to talk a little bit about the gender pay gap? Because I know you cover that in the article.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about the gender pay gap is that class is a big part of this, obviously, right? And when it comes to working class men and women, men still have like a slight advantage, especially in certain states, in certain like rural and suburban areas. But the big divide is education. Obviously, college educated men and women make more, but what's happened is that in certain parts of America, with college educated women actually make more than anyone. I found this study recently that there's 22 cities in America where college educated women actually make more than college educated men. So if you look at the divide between, say, college educated women and college or non-college educated men, there's a massive gap. And so I think a lot of us have had the assumptions about the gender pay gap, and some of that is still true, but some of this recent data, I think a lot of people are having trouble responding to the fact that for one, there's a big education gap in that now women make up 60% of college graduates, and because college graduates do better, the working class is now more male than ever. And when I say working class, I'm using sort of the non-college educated metric, not using a Marx metric. Yeah, and a lot of these jobs that men have are not just tend to be low paying, but also gig work. They tend to have jobs that don't last. Like the guy that I wrote about in my piece, I kind of lead my piece off with. He's the guy that has like a basically 11th grade education. But he's had maybe 7 jobs in the last 10 years. And that's part of the reason why he hasn't had like stable income, but also sort of a lack of identity. Like he doesn't have coworkers that he builds these friendships with. And I think that for a lot of men, they identify with their jobs, and when you have these really shitty, low paid jobs that don't stick around, you just feel untethered from the world.
If I could add to that, one of my article was a bit older and it drew, but I think this is a trend that's been going on for a while. One of the kind of resources I relied on a lot was Hannah Rosen's book, The End of Men.
The End of Men, yeah.
Yeah, which I think was from 2015. And one other thing, besides looking at the snapshot, the fact that in even cities like New York, where I am, apparently college, I just looked this up, what you were talking about, Ryan, and you're right. Even in New York and DC, college-educated women are earning more than men. The other thing is about it, but rather than instead of just looking at a snapshot, you can look at prospects in the future, and even in sort of non-college educated, working class work, the fastest growing sectors are overwhelmingly female. Nursing, just various types of service work. This is, and of course, this was part of the pitch of both Biden and Trump, where we're going to bring back factory jobs, which everyone knows means male jobs. But yeah, it's generally, even for what we would call unskilled labor, or at least labor that doesn't require a college degree, that is overwhelmingly the future looks female for that as well. And there's both. It's just that pure brawn is no longer necessary for a lot of work, and the kinds of qualities that are associated with women more than men actually make them also better positioned for non-college degree work. So for example, being like unthreatening and approachable, or showing up sober. Those are like, this is just like the kind of the socialization and the cultural perception.
Well, yeah, even it's sort of an underrated factor, but even the decline of organized labor. I've profiled some union workers, and one thing that really sticks to me is like how much the identity actually goes in with not only their job but also their union. They tend to hang out, they tend to drink together. You see the jackets.
We've seen that. I was going to say, we've seen that like this precipitous decline, even in like not just unions, but like civic institutions, civic clubs since the 1960s, and that's also leading to a lot of these issues related to atomization.
Oh, totally. Yeah, men have been worse off from like the decline of socialization that's happened over the last few decades, and the workplace tended to be sort of like the last domain for socialization for a lot of men, because they would work long hours, and then meanwhile, like people, men and women, have gone to church less, they're involved less in the community. I've seen statistics about how like less gym membership, less Boy Scouts, there's just less of this altogether, but men are the less social creatures, and so they have tended to be more harmed by this like collapse of socialization. They're not even going to bars anymore. Well, I mean, they're still going to bars, but I was just reading recently about how people are drinking a lot, but there's been the rise of drinking alone or in your house, which it's not great.
I mean, that's I'm sure the pandemic also had a lot to do with that. And I mean, it's like this is partly qualitative and partly quantitative, but just like it's true. Like, I mean, anecdotally, looking among my friends, like even people I know, like and even the older generation, it's often true that once men did get married, they would usually rely on their wife to set up social to maintain social ties and be like, okay, we're going to these people's house for a dinner party, etc. It's just something that like it seems men are poorly equipped to handle on their own by the kind of socialization that we currently have.